Good morning, everyone. My name is Sebastian Ashonkatai, and I'd like to welcome you this morning to Ecobank's webinar. Our webinar this morning is entitled Digitalization and the New Normal, Transforming Your Organization to Accelerate the Adoption of Digital Payments. Yes, I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but please forgive us. It's our intention to ensure that the next 45 minutes is worth your while. And the intention is to ensure that it's useful to your organizations. We will be recording the entire session, so if there are any parts that you miss, we'll certainly let you have access to the recording afterwards, and you can even share it with your colleagues and contacts if you think that this is useful. I'd like to share the agenda for the morning with you so that we can have a look at what is planned for the next 45 minutes. I hope that you can see the screen now. We will be starting with an address from Mr. Akin Dada, who is Ecobank Group's acting head of the Corporate and Investment Banking Division. And right after that, we'll go to the main presentation, which will be done by Mr. Isaac Kamuta. And I'll be telling you a little bit more about Isaac when the time comes. We intend to take questions and answers from you at the end of Isaac's presentation. Please note that all the questions and comments as well can be put in the dialog box that you see to the right-hand side of your screens. And you don't actually need to wait until the presentation is over in order to send your questions. You can start putting them right now, as well as any comments that you may have. So once this question and answer session is also complete, I will hand it over to Mr. Patrick Akinwutam, who's our regional executive and also our MD for Nigeria, and he will make some closing remarks, after which we'll close the session. So with that, I will hand you over to Akin to give you a few words. Akin, your audience.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Ecobank Corporate and Investment Bank to the second in our webinar series. We appreciate every one of you for taking time out of your schedules to join us today. Life as we know it has changed over the last couple of months, and the COVID-19 pandemic has had unprecedented impact on economies, governments, businesses, and individuals across the globe and created more uncertainty for the future than we could all have imagined. The impact of COVID-19 has also significantly overturned operating models, businesses, processes, our everyday interactions, and most importantly, it has also accelerated the rapid use of digital payments, solutions, and modes of interaction. Last week, we held a webinar on the impact of COVID-19 on African economies, commodity markets, and supply chains. Today, we will spend time discussing how financial institutions in Africa are responding to the pandemic, the trends in digital payments, and how you can leverage digital for your local and cross-border transactions. With operations in 33 countries across Middle Africa, Ecobank has a pivotal role to play in assisting our valued clients to better navigate these unprecedented times by sharing our thoughts on the new business realities we all face. Although we do not have answers to all the questions, we can assure you that we will remain a steadfast partner to support you in these uncertain times. Ladies and gentlemen, I do sincerely hope that you enjoyed the session and find it informative. I will now hand over to our moderator for today, Sebastian Ashonkatai, who will go over to introduce the speakers. Sebastian, your audience.
At the moment, we'll be introducing Isaac Kamuta, who will make the main presentation of the day. So Isaac is currently Ecobank's Group Head of Cash Management and Client Access, and he's been in this role for the last 3 years. Isaac has been in the banking sector in Africa for the last 26 years. And during that period, he's worked in senior roles within the cash management space and treasury management space at Citibank, as well as with JP Morgan. He's delivered solutions to corporates, to non-profit organizations, financial institutions, and public sector institutions across the continent. And indeed, if I may say so, he's our very own cash management guru. So I'd like to hand over to Isaac at this point in time, who will deliver the presentation. Isaac, your audience.
Thank you very much, Sebastian and Akin, for that introduction. I'll just go straight to the presentation. One thing, as Sebastian mentioned, feel free to post questions as we go in. You can put comments as I continue with the presentation, so that at the end of the presentation, we'll be able to take questions. This is indeed a conversation, and we are looking forward also to that Q&A session. Let me start with the first slide here that I have. Excellent. Let me go to this slide. We cannot discuss about the impact of COVID-19 without looking at what it has done to these three key industries that are very important in Africa: tourism, hospitality, and oil prices. The demand for oil plummeted as most of the world was in lockdown. The crude oil price came down. There was arguments with Russia and the other oil producing countries. And what we saw here in Africa is that, of course, the price of oil went to almost $20 per barrel, which is the lowest in 18 years. And I'll tell you why this is very important to the conversation that we're going to have today. Because when you have oil at $20, the lowest it has been in 18 years, the implications on the African economy is definitely something that is worth considering. Now, on top of that, we had travel and tourism also greatly impacted by this crisis. And when you talk about hotel and tourism, you talk about the airline industry as well, also being impacted by COVID-19. And when you take all these things into perspective, if you're doing business in Africa, it is important then to look at what has this really done to the continent. And the first lens that we look at it, that you want to highlight, is the impact on tax revenues. If you look at all the governments in Africa, they're all relying on tax revenues. And so when oil has gone down, when tourism is down, when the airlines are not flying and tourists are not coming to the continent, then there's a huge impact on tax revenues. And that is, of course, going to have pressure on our African economies. The second thing that, of course, it has done, which is important to our conversation today, is the unemployment rate. The rate of unemployment in Africa was already high before COVID-19. And then you have bank, tourism, hospitality, and the oil prices coming in. So you end up with a huge number of people unemployed. And when we talk about unemployment, it's very important to just narrow down to, first of all, informal jobs. Africa, there's a lot of informal jobs. Actually, that's what drives most of the African economy. So when you have people locked down, social distancing, they cannot move, that impacts a huge portion of the African population. And of course, the impact on the formal employment, those that are formally employed. Now, why this is very important, I'm just trying to set the stage on how this is impacting Africa, is if you look at the financial crisis of 2007, Africa was really a little bit, did not feel the impact, with the exception of the impact it had on oil prices. But now we have a far much bigger issue on oil affecting bigger sectors. And therefore, you can imagine what that is going to mean for those that are doing business in Africa. It means, of course, that there's going to be pressure on the money that's available for consumption. Let me look again at the next slide here. This slide really looks at another key component of the African economy, which is the impact on global remittances. Africa has got a huge diaspora, a lot of Africans that are out there in North America. I think the largest population is in North America. In Europe, there's a huge African population, almost around 3.5 million. And those people send money into Africa on a monthly basis. Now, if you look at what the researchers have estimated, they have said that the revenues or the remittances that is sent to Africa is going to decline to a record 20% in 2020. Now, this is huge. If you imagine, what does this mean for Africa? These people that are sending funds or money into the diaspora is a source of revenue, or is actually a source of FX, foreign currency, for most governments. Remittances is one of the top foreign exchange earners of most African governments. Now, you also have those people sending in funds to come in and provide family support. And of course, most of those people in the diaspora have actually been key investors in the African continent. And again, now, with that falling, expected to fall around 20%, it again means that it's going to be a huge impact on in Africa. So when you look at these two key economic indicators, remittances, oil price, tourism, it is just showing you the extent of the damage that COVID-19 has done on the African continent. Now, let me add something here, and that's really the next slide. So before COVID-19, already there was a lot that was happening here in Africa. If you look at the evolution of payments, for example, which is a key component of people that are doing business in Africa, you are making payments, you are getting paid. But if you look at what was happening in Africa, instant payments evolution had come. So our clients are getting used to being paid now, not tomorrow. I mean, when I joined the banking industry, Sebastian was introducing me around 27 years ago. It was taking 21 days to clear a check and get your funds. But now we have moved to an era of instant payments. Then on top of that, you got financial inclusion, governments pushing policies to ensure that we've got last mile delivery, and a lot of people that were previously excluded being added into the banking circle. Again, that being government policy. On top of that, you got payment digitization and contactless, and this is very important in the next when we talk about actually how this is going to drive the future. Payment digitization was already happening here before COVID-19. Whether it is leveraging mobile or leveraging the internet, and again, because of the growth of the internet, and mobile being a channel of choice as well. These were all things that were here before COVID-19. Then client experience. The customers of today, whether you are selling them services or they're just buying banking services, they are now more demanding. They want things now, they want it done better, and client experience is a core component of how you deliver your services in the continent. It's not just like before, where there were monopoly companies and it was easy. You didn't really care so much about the customer. Now the customers have got choice, and this was before COVID-19. Now what COVID-19 has done is just accelerated what was already a fast changing in the continent, and it just really transformed how business is done. I mean, today we are talking to you through through webinars. If it was in the past, would have been in a hotel, in a conference room, and having a conference going on. But now we are using digital channels to have this conversation. Disruption was again very ripe here in Africa. When you talk about people, the lines between banking and payments was becoming a bit blurred, and so there was a lot of disruption, not just in the banking sector, but in every sector, whether it's in telecoms, whether it is in manufacturing. There was a lot of disruption that was happening here in the continent. And of course, what it was doing is creating new opportunities. With all these changes, we are creating new opportunities that a lot of investors were busy taking advantage of. And then COVID happened. And what we have seen, and that's why we're having this seminar with all of you and our clients, is that businesses must adapt to this new digital business model for you to be able to remain profitable, to defend your market share, and also to be able to extend your business. And we believe that, as Akin mentioned, Ecobank's Pan-African Bank, covering 33 countries plus one branch in Paris, we have a duty to ensure that our clients are prepared to be able to take advantages of the opportunities that are here, but also to navigate this new normal that we are going to go into. And that's why we are having, this webinar. Now, Let me just focus on something else very, very interesting here. The way business is done in Africa is changing and for the better. Now, if you take, for example, checks, when, those of us who have been in the industry for a long time, check was the dominant, payment instrument of choice a couple of years ago. But now, as you can see from this graph, the usage of checks has reduced. And just this week, I saw in the newspapers that in some countries like South Africa, checks have become extinct. They are not going to be issued from next year. Who would have thought that a payment instrument of choice just a couple of years ago would be completely eliminated? And this is just showing you how fast things are changing in Africa. If you had argued or tried to bet would checks disappear, it would have been a very different conversation. But today, checks have disappeared. And what has happened in South Africa, we expect is going to be repeated across most of the African countries. Now, what does this mean? It means that digital connections are really the future. And if you are doing business in Africa, you then have to reimagine where Africa has come and start now changing your systems to be able to play in this new, what we are calling the new normal. And it's looking at your entire, cash flow process, whether it's from procurement, invoicing, your payments, how you are handling your receivables, and how you can be able to leverage, technology like APIs to be able to deliver your products in the market that you're operating in. So really, there's a lot of change that has happened, but I think it is change for the better. I found this very interesting. This article was written on December 21st, 2009, and people were debating around whether checks are going to be present, in the next, 10 years. And they were saying, yeah, we'll be thinking about how to phase checks out. But today, which is basically 10 years after this article, checks are beginning to die and in some countries, they're actually dead. And this is important because if you don't adapt, if you don't transform your business to be able to play in the new normal, you can end up in a very difficult place. And we think us as Ecobank, and part of the reason why we're having these webinars is to be able to work with our clients to be able to assist them as they navigate this new, this new normal, which I think is quite exciting. Now, you cannot talk about changes in Africa without taking a look at who are the people here. A population of around 1.4, 1.3 billion, people in Africa. But if you look at the middle class, before COVID-19, there was a middle class here of around 330 million people. 330, these are people that have got disposable income. And these are people that are fancy, they can use technology, and they're spread across, several countries, from Egypt all the way to Tanzania, and there are another 17 million of them in the rest of Africa. But this is a very interesting group of people to look at, because these are the people that have got disposable income, and therefore from a purchasing power perspective, they are very important. So it's important to keep your eye on that class. And I know COVID has impacted them. The numbers may change up and down depending on the country, but it's a very important group of people to look at when you're looking at about how to transform your business. Again, another thing, the mobile phone is now the leading channel to pay and be paid. In 2019 alone, 15 million new mobile wallets were created across Africa. Again, a very, very important, statistic there. 50 million new mobile wallets were created across Africa, which is like a 12% increase in registered mobile users. What does this mean? It means that if you're doing business here in Africa, then you need to start thinking about how do you leverage the mobile as a payment channel of choice for you to be paid, or for you to even to leverage from a paying perspective. That is something you cannot ignore. Africa is leading the world when it comes to mobile, and we are seeing convergence. I know it has been very strong in the East African market, but even in West and Central Africa, we are seeing the infrastructure, converging, and the mobile becoming the channel of choice in most countries. Then again, the payment instrument basket is changing a lot in most countries. And here I want to just address specifically the issue of cash. Cash, a lot of people have said cash is king. And I think that is true. Cash is king. But cash usage, from where we sit, it will continue to decline. And just like checks, I mean, this is my own prediction, that I'm making here, and I'm happy to be challenged during the conversation. But I predict that cash will become irrelevant by the year 2040, and I can tell you why. Based again on what we have seen during this COVID-19 lockdown, cash is going to decline. And therefore, if you have a business model that has been selling a lot using cash, then you need to rethink how you can start leveraging digital channels to be able to make payments. Digital consumer payments shall continue to grow, and 24/7 payment and settlement capability is going to be absolutely critical going forward. And therefore, things like wallets, instant payments, contactless card payments, QR payments, whether it's using Ecobank Pay, and I'll talk about that later on. These are things that are these are payment instruments that are going to be so critical for your business. And so again, while we're talking to our clients, is that you need to rethink how you've been selling before, how you've been manufacturing, how you've been selling, and start thinking about how can you then leverage this technology so that you can continue being relevant tomorrow. Another key thing that we cannot not emphasize here is the growth of internet. Internet or e-commerce continues to grow. And before COVID, there were people that used to say, you know what, I can't order online, and it's a bit difficult, and I'm scared about security and all that. But then COVID-19 happened, and what we have seen is an acceleration of e-commerce transactions growing in leaps and bounds as people embrace not just contactless payment, but also embracing the use of internet for purchases and even for sales. Again, so this is something very, very important to keep an eye on, and I'll talk about that in my summary slide, because we're seeing the trend growing here. Now, this slide here, I just thought I should sort of put it together and just bring around to say, what have we seen here in Ecobank? And in the last, I would say, 5 months, the digital channels uptake has surged. We are customers that we are reluctant to use digital channels, but during the COVID-19, we've seen this, just a huge uptick, coming in branch activities has gone down. The footfalls into our branches has reduced drastically. And we have seen, of course, the equivalent increase in use of digital channels. Now, this is banking, but I would expect it is the same thing in every sector that you are represented. If you are in the consumer manufacturing space, or you're in logistics, there has been an impact on COVID-19. From a banking perspective, we've seen less and less people going to branches and more people moving to digital channels. And therefore, as a bank, of course, we are now, we are looking at how do we ensure that going forward, we are organized to respond to what the clients or what we are seeing in the market. Now, what then is the journey to the new normal? We, most African businesses and governments, we are before the crisis, we are very slow to digitize. We were still having conversations with customers on whether they should use electronic payments, and there were debates around is it safe, and they were reluctant to use. Then, what happened with COVID-19? Everybody realized that no, I can't leave my house. I need to be able to make a payment irrespective of where I am. And that is the pre-crisis period. Then now we had the reaction where COVID created short-term operational crises for businesses, and governments were all scrambling to find new ways of doing business, new ways of making payments, new ways of sending funds to citizens who needed help. And that was the reaction. And then now, of course, we have the recovery, which is, I think, at the stage where we are now, and then the reinvention. And I think, financial institutions, of course, starting with ourselves, we have a mandate, we have a responsibility to evolve, to be able to help our businesses and all of you that are on this webinar today, to be able to digitize and take advantage of this new normal, or what we are calling reinvention, which is basically going to be the new normal, where businesses and governments embrace digitization as a way of doing business with minimal human contact, looking at costs, improving service delivery. Those are things that are going to be absolutely important for you if you're doing business here in Sub-Saharan Africa. Now, let me come to this slide. And I think this really speaks about, pre-COVID and what we have done as a Pan-African bank to help our clients across the 3 countries that we operate in, plus our 1 branch in Paris, to be able to serve our clients. So one of the things that we did, and I think the first thing that I want to highlight here, technology changes fast. And we had legacy systems, systems that have been in the banking industry for a long time. But it was important for you to be able to take advantage of the new normal. You need to have technology that is agile, technology that is modern, that can be able to, to drive, for example, open banking or using APIs for clients to be able to connect to us. And I think as Ecobank, we are fortunate that before the crisis, we had already made a strategic decision to digitize our entire, everything that we do. Digital has been a corner of our strategy because we believe that part of the mission of this bank is to be able to help our clients transact and make payments in Africa and get paid in this continent. So we had already invested in technology. For example, OmniLite is our application that our clients, our commercial banking clients use to make payments. We had deployed that before the crisis. Then we had deployed our platform OmniPlus, which is what our corporate bank clients again use to connect. In fact, this one just went fully live on July the 9th, a few weeks ago. But the implementation started way before the crisis. And then at the back end as well, we had also changed our core banking application. And this is important to what I'm going to say, because you cannot take advantage of the new normal if you are having technology of the past. So for you to be able to drive open banking, where you can get customers to connect seamlessly, and you can have sandboxes where fintechs can come in and play around, you needed to have agile technology. And we as Ecobank, before this crisis, we had made that investment on our client-facing systems and our backend system so that we can be able to drive digital banking. We have an Ecobank mobile app as well, which I think is best in class. But I would like to hear, from the clients. Again, available across all our countries. And most important is this acquiring or component here, Visa and MasterCard, the ability to be able to drive e-commerce transactions. And we had invested again in having a fresh new gateway where we can be able to acquire transactions, use tokenization so that the card, the transactions are done in a safe way, and ensure that everything works seamlessly. So we had already made this investment to support our clients, and so we are at I would say a very good position right now, where we believe that every single technology that's required to drive the future, we have it available to all our clients that are connected here, and even our future clients. I'll move on quickly on the next slides, and then I go to the summary in the interest of time, because we'll send you this presentation as well. But this slide here really paints a picture of where African governments are going. And I think it's important. I've just picked up Ghana as an example, where the government is taking the lead in accelerating the adoption and usage of digital payments using the Ghana Universal QR. Those of you that are connected from Ghana, and by the way, would like to know which country you're connecting from. So on the charts there, you can just tell us where you're connecting from. We like to know. When I saw the registration, we had like almost the whole of Africa was here. But it'd be good just to tell us where you're connecting from so that we can build the conversation. But Ghana was an example of a country that has has made a decision to drive cashless by launching the Universal QR, again with financial inclusion as the key. And you can see the statistics. The mobile penetration now has grown over 137%. Mobile money wallets 15 million, and the Ghana QR has been put. And the idea here is to have an interoperable QR that can be able to drive digital payments across Ghana. I expect that all the other African countries are going to go this route. And therefore, the ability to just scan and pay without having to touch anything is going to be a key thing driving the future. So with that, I want to go to the summary slide. These ones I will send you over to read. But I want to finalize with this slide, which I think answers the question, what does this mean for you and businesses in Africa? Number one, we think that business models must change, and change very quickly. Time is of essence here. So we must embrace digital channels so that we can be able to best reach and serve your customers. So you have to rethink, how do I serve the customer? How do I change and embrace digital as the way of being paid or as a way of being paid? How do I leverage APIs when it comes to payments or when it comes to getting paid? Now, I've talked about African governments driving digitization and financial inclusion. But I think as a business also, you have to be aware that your competitors are also going digital. Digital brings reduction in costs. And therefore, when you think about using digital, it means you need to reduce your costs. You can be able to build and scale your businesses, and you can also be able to leverage technology to drive customer loyalty. So the bottom line here is that every business, that everybody that's doing business in Africa, the model must change quickly, and embracing digital channels has to be core. And has to be a core strategy of everyone that is doing business here. Of course, businesses must invest in a digitization program and transform the core business operations to be more directly connected to customers and suppliers. Now, what do I really mean by this? In the past, you may find you used to sell through a distributor, and then the distributor went out to sell to another smaller distributor, and then finally you reach your end client. With digitization and what has now happened, you can be able to reach your customers directly. And therefore, you have to then rethink, do I really need to continue doing, using this long chain, which then means inefficiencies? I'm not in control of the end client, and I'm increasing costs. So these are things to think about. So, but you have to make an investment in digitization going forward. And then the third one, which I think is critical, is COVID-19 has accelerated the need to fast-track online sales, which is really the whole of e-commerce. If you have been selling using the traditional methods, you have to then now start thinking about what portion of my sales do I drive online? How do I invest in ensuring that my business, my products are available online, and also while driving the other normal sales channels? Because e-commerce and the use of internet and the use of mobile as an enabler is going to drive the next sales process. So, this is really, my last slide, and really the most important, that our business models have to change. You have to rethink how you sell. You have to rethink your entire supply chain. You have to understand that now a lot of people are happy to buy online, and it's become safe. And of course, you need to be able to invest in the digitization program. As Ecobank, again, we remain committed. The reason why this bank was formed, as a Pan-African institution, was to drive and ensure that those that are outside of Africa who want to do business in Africa, there's one institution where at one point of contact you can get access to the 3 countries. And of course, if you are doing business in Africa, you need to be able to have one bank that you can be able to work with in the 3 countries without having to do KYC in many countries. So that is the whole essence, and we are here available to support you. So with that, I'll hand over back to our moderator, Sebastian Ashong-Katai, for questions.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Wow, love that passion. I see you're really gunning for an Africa with action. So I'll go straight into the questions. I realize we went slightly over time for the presentation, but we'll accommodate that and we'll allow some extra time for the questions as well. Please also don't be disappointed if you don't hear your question asked. Due to limits on time, we'll make sure that we get an answer to you directly. So every question will receive an answer. Isaac, digitalization is fine for as long as organizations use internet banking. But what about POS transactions? The POS transaction costs are high, about 1.5 to 2% of transaction value, and this is beyond the normal international tariff of 0%. And this is a big caveat for companies. What is the action plan to overcome this?
Thank you very much, Sebastian, and for whoever asked that question. I think that is a brilliant question, possibly the best one, first question you can get. Because POS, from what we are seeing, POSs, there's still demand for them. It is easy to deploy. People are used to it. We consider it one of those legacy payment methods. However, they come with interchange fees that sometimes are beyond the control of the players, right? Because you need connectivity through Visa and MasterCard, and they come with fixed costs. In some countries as well, it's actually regulated. The interchanges is actually regulated by the central bank. So it's one of those services where almost like you are not really in control of the cost element. It's almost like an airline. You don't dictate the landing fees, and the plane is made by Boeing, and you really have very few elements that you can control. That's how I look at the POS. Now, what have we done? That is where the QR, for example, using the Ecobank Pay solution, which is QR, it is cheaper. You don't have to pay the same interchange fees. You get instant payments. The settlement happens instantly, and the transaction size is growing. So what we are seeing happening is that alternatives to the POS are increasingly coming in. And as the QR becomes an embraced payment method, we do expect that the use of POS will begin to decline, and therefore that cost or that friction from a cost perspective will then become not so much pronounced because customers will have an option. The second thing that I talked about also is the use of wallets. As we're seeing growth of digital wallets, growing up, and as the digital wallets in size increases, also the need for POS reduces, and that's where the mobile becomes very critical. When you look, for example, at what happened in East Africa when COVID-19 happened, governments increased the limit that you could have on your mobile wallet. And all of a sudden, merchants could transact up to $3,000 using their digital wallets. There's no interchange. It's a fairly reasonable cost. You can do transfers from your bank account to your wallet and vice versa. And so what we are seeing happening is that there are alternatives that now are available for you as a customer to be able to use to get away from this sort of less fixed fee that you cannot control. Of course, it's going to be a journey, but we are so grateful, at least from an Ecobank perspective. You can use our Ecobank Pay solution. It's available across that 3 countries. You just scan on your Ecobank mobile app, you pay, and to the merchant is instant settlement. And as the growth continues to happen and more people use it, I think it's going to be the way of the future. Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you very much for that, Isaac. So QR codes, digital wallets will mitigate some of these shortcomings of POS and be the way forward. Next question is, what post-COVID major measures will Ecobank take with regards to digital payments? What should we prepare for as clients?
Thank you, Sebastian. I'll take that one as well. So the last 3 years, I would say we as Ecobank have laid the foundation for enabling our clients to leverage digital payments. As I mentioned, we've invested in payment platforms, whether it's OmniPlus, OmniLite, to enable you to be able to make payments, or is our acquiring platform, Ecobank Pay, to be able to acquire transaction, do QR, POS. We have everything in one house, and we have enabled our backend as well to be able to receive payments through APIs if and when required. So when I look at where the future is going, I would say get prepared for, elimination of manual payments. There'll be no need absolutely to send any manual payment to Ecobank, because the tools that you need to be able to do business are available and they are ready, they are easy to use. So that's one thing that you should be prepared for. Number 2, I think you should be prepared for us talking to you and wanting to look at how your business is going. And this is where I see banking becoming, sitting down with you and looking at how can we integrate with your processes, so that you can then leverage this technology at source. So we're seeing banking and Ecobank being more closer to you from an integration perspective, so that we are integrated into your, for example, if you run a small hotel, how do we integrate with your tills so that as soon as somebody pays, the payment happens and your funds reach your account, immediately. Or if you are a person who is doing business in three, 4 countries, how do we connect you to ensure that as you move from one country to another in the 3 countries we operate in, that process is seamless. So I think those are some of the things you can expect from us. We have laid the groundwork. I think it's been painful sometimes because changing systems is never easy. That's why a lot of people prefer to stay with the old. That's why legacy systems is never easy. It's disruptive. Sometimes it doesn't go very well. There's friction. But at least thankfully we've done it. and everything is in place now, and we are ready to even talk to you and engage you more in this digital process. I think this webinar is just the beginning, but you're going to see more and more of Ecobank from Zimbabwe to Uganda to Tanzania, all the way to South Sudan, to Gabon, to Cameroon, to Senegal, to Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. You're going to see a lot of Ecobank team members coming to your office, wanting to see how can we work with you to ensure that we can enable your payments, we can help you get paid, and we can help you pay digitally to be able to take advantage of this new norm. Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Isaac. Digital payments are good, especially during this lockdown, but what are the protective measures put in place to avoid hackers getting into customers' accounts?
Thank you. Again, when you are implementing digital, the first thing that comes into your mind as a bank is security, security, security. How do you ensure that the platforms that you put in are robust? They have all the right infrastructure or security to ensure that customer transactions are guaranteed. And there are several things that we do, whether it is encryption, whether it is ensuring that the connection is through secure channels or VPN. Those are all things that are fairly standard. When you look at the risk level, which is, especially the acquiring business, because that's actually the most risky one, when they're using your card or you are scanning using your mobile app, how do you ensure that that process is safe? Again, thankfully to the technology we have deployed, we can now do tokenization, which I think is brilliant, because when you go in and you are merchant, you take the card transaction is only taken once, and then you are given a 14-digit number that you then use for all your other transactions. And so your card details don't have to be made visible when you are doing purchasing. So again, tokenization is again another concept that is really helping improve security. And of course, all the payment channels coming with maker checker processes to ensure that they are robust and there is no possibility of that happening. So those are the things we do, and we have a team of information security team that their job is just to ensure that the bank remains safe, and we continue leveraging and deploying the latest security technology to ensure that the bank transactions are done in a safe environment. Thank you, Sebastian.
So Isaac, will the cost of remittance and digital transactions go up or down as a result of the crisis?
Again, that's a very good question. My expectation is that as more and more people embrace digital as a means of payments, then you got volume. And when you get volume of transactions, then the costs will always go down. So my estimate is that the cost of digital transactions will continue to go down. I think it's expected as more and more people, for example, embrace QR, or you start using Ecobank Pay as your payment of choice. Then there is no interchange fee, or there's nothing that we need to pay anyone, and therefore that is a transaction that is easy to do. As governments, for example, in Ghana deploy QR, Ghana QR, and everybody starts to use it. That can only bring down the cost of banking services, which is then compensated by the fact that more and more people are using the transactions. And to be frankly, that is the journey to cashless Africa. I think just the same way that we have led the world on mobile payments, I think Africa should be the first continent to be able to become cashless. And there's nothing that should stop us from achieving that. I mean, the rest of the world may continue using cash, but there's really no reason for Africa in another few years for us to be walking around with cash. You can use digital channels to pay for your transport. You pay in your supermarket. You can use Ecobank Pay to pay in your restaurant. Therefore, you don't really need cash. And so the cost of doing business, I think, of digital transactions, I think can only go down. And I'm really looking forward to, seeing cashless Africa become cashless, in my lifetime, because that is something that we owe it, I think, to those that will come after us.
Thank you, Isaac. With the use of mobile money and mobile wallets, how will banks still remain relevant for the typical average salaried consumer?
Again, that's a very good question as well. And it really speaks to this whole aspect around collaboration. Okay, mobile wallets it's just one of the wallets. You know, there are many types of wallets. Banks have their own wallets. We have our own, our own wallet. So when I say that the use of wallets will continue to grow, it doesn't mean that the wallets have to be around mobile. You know, there are many ways. There are many digital wallets that are available there that are not on mobile. So, but there is enough space for everyone, because even if you are doing a mobile transaction, that transaction still needs to be, a warehouse at a bank. The settlement still needs to happen, and I think that's where, as Ecobank, we are. I think we are in a very good position, I would say, because if you're looking about settling transactions across 33 countries, that's what we are providing businesses. That's what we are providing the telecom companies. That's what we are, providing the fintech companies. And therefore, to me, there is enough space for everyone. But at the end of the day, we want business to be done fast. You need to be done efficient. We want to help you as a customer to sell more. We want to help you to be more efficient, because when you are more efficient, when you are using technology to drive your business, when your business grows and expands, then as a bank and as Africa, we benefit. That remains our mission.
Thank you very much, Isaac. And ladies and gentlemen, it's amazing how the time really flies. This brings us to the end of our question and answer session, and ultimately very close to the end of the entire session. Isaac, I'd like to thank you very much. And at this stage, I'd like to hand over to our group executive and managing director for Ecobank Nigeria, is Mr. Patrick Akinwuton, and he will give us our final closing remarks. So Patrick, your audience.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, most importantly, our cherished customers that have joined us on this session this morning. This is the new normal, so this is a standard way of reaching out. Bank indeed was created for this. We started from day one as a borderless bank, looking at Africa as one market and making sure that we connect the dots without looking at the restrictions, but looking at the opportunities. Today, the changing face of payments is coming to terms with the opportunity for Africa. We see the opportunity for Africa to leapfrog with efficiencies, to make a difference and bring financial services to every household in a convenient manner, and also a transparent manner, such that Africa can indeed compete globally and take its rightful position. So in terms of changing parameters, the need to leverage technology, the need to be able to operate 24/7 in a seamless manner, in a transparent manner, in a convenient manner, is what the Ecobank platform offers all our customers, both within Africa and outside Africa. It's been our pleasure showcasing to you all the various rails that we have put together. We have a Pan-African switch, our ability to serve you straight from our Omni platform, from our Omni Lite platform, from our Ecobank Pay, which makes payments quite easy, from our mobile platform, from our USSD platform, the app, rapid transfer for remittances for diaspora. We have all the bouquet of services and capabilities to serve you better and to take our rightful place in the global world. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we would keep in touch with you, leveraging digital, leveraging the technology platforms, and together, let's win for ourselves, let's win for Africa, and let's make the world a much better place. Once again, thank you for joining us, and stay blessed and stay safe. Thank you very much.